With a new console comes new games. I mean, you can't really have a console without some games to launch with. Our story starts with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or as we'll call it, the SNES. By the way, I can't be the only one that used to call it the SNES as a kid from the way it was abbreviated, right? I hope I wasn't the only one. Many of the launch games included Pilot Wings, SimCity, Gradius 3, Super Mario World, and F-Zero. F-Zero at the time had broken many standards for racing games, such as using Mode 7 for a very 3D-istic environment, the use of futuristic subgenre of games which wasn't common at the time, its extremely fast and challenging gameplay, something not thought of strongly for something like the Super Nintendo, which at the time was competing against the Genesis with its proclaimed blast processing, and starting a new franchise for Nintendo that would totally last forever after and be the definitive Nintendo racing franchise. However, one flaw that was quickly noted was the lack of multiplayer mode, which couldn't be implemented due to the extensive graphical use of the console. I mean, even at the time, having a non-multiplayer racing game was kind of a weird idea. Although this may be in relation with the fact that many good racing games were in arcades, so they could very easily implement two-player action. This, along with the gameplay being considered more for experienced and hardcore players, gave Nintendo the idea of making another racing game focused just on the multiplayer. A prototype of just two go-karters racing around a Mode 7 plane was created, and they just started building the game from there. Eventually, Mario and friends were added in, touch-ups on speed and performance were put to balance out the game, and later on, addition of a single-player mode for anyone who's a gamer, and BAM! Super Mario Kart was released for the SNES in 1992 for everywhere but the European Union, which got it in 1993. The game received high praise and pioneered the kart racing genre of gaming, something that did somewhat exist at the time. But like, come on, do you really think Shrek Swamp Kart Speedway and South Park Rally would exist without this? And also because anything with Mario in the title will always revolutionize the genre as we've seen before. Kind of. I mean, to this day, the Mario Kart series is still one of the best-selling racing games overall, and really the only notable one of its kind. Can't really think of anything else like it besides maybe Forza and Need for Speed. However, as with all games, especially those on the Super Nintendo, they are prone to the idea of time. And Super Mario Kart is definitely one of those games that have aged worse than many have thought. Actually, nah. Everyone knew this was going to age like shit even a few years after it came out. You see, Super Mario Kart tried to make the game work in a 3D-esque layout via manipulating the background and Mode 7 graphics in order to create a simulated 3D environment. Now, that's not the problem I'm going to complain about. Almost every Super Nintendo racing game did this, and many racing games that weren't bird's eye view had some kind of graphic rendering to at least make their game seem 3D. My problem is the limit it causes. For one, due to how the graphics are manipulated, the tracks and hazards themselves are scaled, meaning they slowly grow in size and become active when approached closely, seeming as if they're a part of the background up until you reach a point. Now this is fine and dandy with it being a Mode 7 game and all that stuff, but the problems consist of many issues like use of colors, blending, and disproportional sizing, which overall covers how exactly the Mode 7 scaling can mess with you. I'm not trying to say that there wasn't a better option, because there really wasn't at the time. But why does Super Circuit, a game that also has Mode 7 graphics, make it much more appealing and easier to get used to than this? I mean, this plays on a big-ass backlight TV screen, not that small, dinky handheld screen. It also doesn't help with the way the colors can blend. Like, you can easily tell through with stages like Donut Plains and Rainbow Road, you know, color contrasts well with the offstage and hazards, but there are some other stages that have it bad, like Bowser Castle. The offstage here isn't the issue. It's the hazards on the stage. My god, is it hard to see the damn thwomp sometimes after the first lap. And Choco Island, Jesus, this course is an irritation for me than just the blending. But we'll get to that when we get to that. For now, would it have been oh so hard to differentiate the bumps in the rocky offstage zone? Like, I swear, I'll accidentally mess up from going bump to bump thinking I'm going into another bump only to tap on the edge of the offstage zone, which brings your speed down hard. Vanilla Lake is absolutely horrendous for this. It is difficult to tell the difference between the snow and the icy track itself, so many times you're going to be sliding into the snow if you don't turn well enough. But what really gets me going is the damn hazards on the stage. The ice blocks. These things are fucking impossible to tell coming ahead, and it isn't until you're literally right in front of them when you finally notice them. They blend too damn well with the track and are scattered everywhere like berries falling out of a grocery bag. Another thing about the scaling is the way it does turns. This is mostly apparent in later courses that require stronger turns, and although it's not the worst thing, it can be a bit of a nuisance in the way it can trick your eyes into thinking how large or how sharp that turn really is until you get right up there, and at that point you're either turning into a wall, a hazard, or into the offstage zone. Or you're just not going to get to a point of the turn where you're not going to get a boost out of. Whereas had you waited a slightly bit longer, you would have been able to improve and gotten not only a clean turn, but also a boost out of it. Speaking of making turns and boosting, the controls. Dear God, are these some bad controls for a racing game. Yeah, I get this was the first of its time, but even then, F-Zero still had tighter and smoother controls than this. Okay, so for start, to control your character in the kart, you have to use the B button to accelerate and the Y button to brake and the A button to use the goddamn items. Why? Why is it designed like this? Who in their goddamn mind decided to completely reverse the button's actions? Everyone knows that A stands for accelerating and B stands for braking. The letters for the button and its layout fit exactly for it, and yet they decide to put the actions like this. It probably doesn't help that the B button is the sole way of getting around the menu besides X, which lets you go back. Dear God. Well, at least they let you steer with the D-pad if they had to get one thing right. The controls layout isn't even the start to how the controls functionally work. Trying to make turns just doesn't work half the time. The thinness of some turns or angles either make you required to stop accelerating in order to make a clean turn, or to just hit the off-road part. This happens way too much during the latter half of the game, where everything has to be either a really super sharp turn, or a skinny main road with just acres of off-road right on the side. And I know that may bring up the argument of just drift, but you gotta remember, drifting in this game doesn't really work, like, at all. Compared to other games where you're given this tight, somewhat locked holding while retaining good momentum and speed, drifting in Super Mario Kart feels like you're simply pushing the entire kart with some kind of unknown kinetic force. You don't lock into place, and you can't maintain a direction well enough to make good turns unless you start drifting early but not too early, scraping by at a sharp angle. As I mentioned before, this can make sharp turns really difficult to stay on and also challenging to gain boosts. Oh yeah, boost. You can barely tell when you get them. Unlike later games, there's no telling of when you get it or how long it takes to get it. No signs, no sparks, no animation, hell, no mention in the official handbook. You need to grab the guidebook for that. You only know when you got it when the engine slightly revs up, and that's after you perform the drift, which can vary. Obviously, it does have a set drift point like all drifts do, but like you could be drifting for a while and not get a boost, or drift very sharp and shortly and somehow get one, or you can drift quickly and in smoothness and somehow not get one. What is this inconsistency, man? I need some sort of sign to tell me when I'm drifting correctly, or even drifting at all. Even starting a drift can be a pain. Sometimes I just end up going into a wide drift and thumping against the wall or running into the off-road. The drifting is definitely at its worst here. It gives the illusion of inconsistency. It has no telling signs besides the sound effect after you finish the drift. And the way you drift just isn't good, like, at all. Okay, so let's see what else I can shit on this game for. Oh yeah, the tracks. I've already gone into detail about the shitty hazards and how the off-road sucks, but this one is going to go more in depth about the layout and design, both of which also kinda suck. Beginning tracks are fairly understandable. Wide road with wide turns and short lengths with occasional bumps, hops or pits or lakes. As you progress and unlock more cups, which means unlocking more tracks, they become more difficult and challenging as you continue. The road becomes more narrow, the turns get tighter, more hazards and pits are placed on the tracks, and the length of the track becomes longer overall. Generally, I don't have a huge problem with this. However, I do have a problem with the pacing of the cup, like going through the difficulty that is Donut Plains 3 before jumping into the easy pacing of Koopa Beach 2. Yes, I know many people like going to simple gameplay or challenges after taking on something difficult. I do too. But I believe strongly that the challenge should stay on a somewhat decent balance and not just hop from to sleazing behind the wheel. Not a really bad thing either way, I suppose, so let's get on to the next part. The really repetitive design of the tracks. It's the same repetitive 7 tracks repurposed into 19 tracks, with a little special track at the end of the special. Oh my god. How did I not realize this? Anyways, to get back on track. These tracks are reused over and over and over again, and this is where repetitiveness is at its strongest. Even the damn battle courses are built with the same walls, roads, and background. And yeah, I know that the game was released around 1992 and that there was a limited amount of Mario level and world designs at the time, but come on, you had stuff like Super Mario Bros. 3 with the desert, or Super Mario Land with the Moai Island. Even if they didn't want to use these and wanted to stick with the consistent Mario World style and design, given that was the modern point in the series, would it have been hard to make or at least repurpose the tracks with the other areas in the game, like a vanilla dome or underground track? I'm pretty sure you could have reused the Ghost Valley or Rainbow Road background and just added a bit here and there on the course to get something like that if they didn't have the space to add new designs entirely. Or even the sky levels. Like, I'm for certain that they could have simply reused the Koopa Beach background and used the vanilla like snow and repurposed that into a road. Like, come on, add at least some more variety than this. I mean, for God's sakes, you're telling me that they could make 4 Mario circuits, 3 Bowser castles, and 3 donut plains, but not a single vanilla dome or Forest of Illusion based track? I mean, I guess I'd rather take 4 Mario circuits than 3 Choco Islands. No, seriously, there was going to be a 3rd Choco Island meant for the game. It was eventually replaced with Rainbow Road, and thank God, I can't imagine playing that piece of shit for a 3rd time on a more terrible layout. Can we talk about some of these tracks? I know I gave a generalized info on some of these tracks and name dropped some of the ones I don't like, but I still think I haven't digged deep enough into them to show how some of these stages are fucking shit. Okay, so first pit stop. Choco Island. In fact, we're just gonna cover both Choco Islands. So the first one, it's boring, a bit sloggy, a bit bumpy, you know, expected for the first track in the second cup. But man, why is the off-road so fucking huge? It takes up like 80% of the plane total. Then you have Choco Island 2, which is... oh my god, can I just jump on this one more? The tight road makes it so goddamn hard to stay on and not touch the off-road, which, by the way, murders your fucking speed like crazy. Also, they made the mud lake take over at least 25% of the track, so it makes the entire track really hard to consistently stay on and also drift. You know, the shit that makes me feel skilled and go faster that I can't even do anyway, even on a good track, 'cause this fucking game is pissing me off with this fucking stupid fucking game made by fucking Nintendo back in 1992. The vanilla lakes also kind of suck, especially Vanilla Lake 2, but I've already discussed those tracks more so in the hazards and mode 7 part of the video. So we'll just go off on one more track. Donut Plains 3. Someone at Nintendo designed, coded, and playtested this track and thought, oh yeah, this is a good difficulty course. No, it isn't at all. Making difficult tracks is kind of easy, but making good difficult tracks is, you guessed it, pretty difficult. But for racing games, especially in Mario Kart, they are done a lot more easily than any other kind of genre. I mean, you have tracks like Mario Circuit 3, Bowser Castle 2 and 3, Ghost Valley 3, and Rainbow Road that test your endurance and skill of the game without going overboard. It makes it so any kind of mistake or problem wasn't directly from the game's design, but from you. Anytime you fall off Rainbow Road from a late turn, or you fall into a pit in Ghost Valley from misperforming a hop or a skid, you can't really blame the game as its fault given the way it builds around your knowledge of the game, how you've come this far into the more difficult cups, so you should be understandable of how fine-tuned the controls are along with the speed and advantages of the characters you're using. Donut Plains 3 removes all of that and gives you a pile of dog shit with a treasure chest of dog shit inside of it. Let's take the first part for instance. The turning into the broken bridge side. I've had so much damn problems trying to drift good because it is really hard trying to get onto the bridge with just going right without decelerating. And the way the boost comes as soon as you reach the water is just a fucking nuisance. Oh yeah, the broken bridge. What you're supposed to do here is build up your max speed and try to hop over the water in order to not fall in. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, there's only one problem, and that is trying to hop it. Hopping isn't hard. You simply press or hold down one of the shoulder buttons and you'll do a hop into your drift animation if you hold it down. That isn't the problem. The gap is the problem. It's just too wide to make even with max speed because you have to be right next to the water before making a hop. Too early and you'll hop into the edge of the water on the other side of the bridge, slowing you down. Too late and you'll just fall into the deep water, and at that point you might as well just let Lakitu pick you up. You're not going to make it out anyways. Then next, you have the turn after the broken bridge, which 10 times out of 10 you're going into the grass. There's no way around it. And 9 times of that into the water also. The only way to avoid any of this occurring is to decelerate, which you just can't do. You'll lose time. It's literally next to impossible to do this since you have to perform a hop beforehand, meaning if you simply press hop then you won't get a drift and you'll simply go left into the grass or water because of the sharp ass turn. And if you do hold the shoulder button to follow the drift upon landing, you'll still get into the off-road grass because the turn is just too fucking sharp for no reason. One more thing. Upon passing the impossible turn and going through the narrow road, you follow up to 2 more big turning points. They are both somewhat wide and can get you a drift plus a boost if you start early enough. But of course, Nintendo didn't want you to get that so easily, so they decided to just clog both turning points. One side consisting of Monty Moles, and the other side consisting of rocks that sucks dick because now you have to rely on either rolling over the patches and not planting a Monty Mole on yourself, messing up your drift and also your speed, or going through the rocks, which can mess with the way you drive and drift, which makes it extremely hard to get a boost off of driving on that terrain. I don't understand why they decide to make a course like this. It's too tricky. There are many points on the map that make it hard to recover back onto the main road, and the only good parts on the map are covered in hazards and messy terrain, or the finish line. It was so bad that it was the only time I had to use the rewind feature for this playthrough, which is something I generally don't like using, but this was my 3rd recording of it, and I still just couldn't get through the stupid fucking broken bridge and that fucking turn that makes me the fuck off! It fucking pisses me off how they fucking Anyways, let's see what else I can give this game shit for. Oh yeah, the AI, or just the 1-player mode. If you want to get the 150cc mode and also the special cup, because for some reason you can't fucking unlock it on 50cc, like what? You have to play through 100cc mode. Or you could just do the cool little button combo on the time trials, only if you use a bit. The difficulty jump between 50cc and 100cc is a pretty huge jump. Not an extreme jump, but it'll catch you off guard if you go through 100cc for the first time as a new player. 50cc is extremely basic, so there's not much to talk about it, so this will mainly focus on 100cc. Unlike in 50cc, the AI are programmed differently to add a sort of a challenge to the mode. Usually by making them faster, gaining items without touching an item panel, you know, the basics. Except, there's more to it. These characters gain special items. Yes, Super did it before Double Dash, suck it up. That they, only the CPUs, can use at any time. Yes, the CPUs do not abide by the normal roulette system. They can simply use an item anytime wherever they feel like it. Catching up to them? Fuck off, mushroom time. Getting a bit close in their personal space? Fuck off, star time. Getting ahead? Fuck off, Yoshi egg time. God, I fucking hate this one! Yoshi, DK Jr., Peach, and Toad gain items that are throwable from a far distance, meaning that they can essentially snipe you from even a mile away. And yes, I know the bottom part of the screen where the map belongs shows the back of you when a CPU is about to throw an item. But sometimes that doesn't even really help, as the CPU could be stuck close together, making it harder to tell who's going to throw something, or they're so far back that they aren't viewable on the bottom part and you just get hit. For no reason! I play Luigi a lot, and since Super uses a different way of making rivals, Yoshi is always Luigi's fastest rival, so I always have to deal with his dumb fucking eggs that make me want to turn my controller into a lethal projectile. Seriously, fuck this. It's already hard enough dealing with CPUs that can use items whenever they please, but did you have to give them special unbalanced items that I can't gain, even when playing that character? Another dumb thing is that CPUs can just jump over items. Yes, that is a thing that they can do and are allowed to do, whenever they please, might I add. It doesn't matter if the item is right in front of them, chasing after them, being thrown at them, or they are literally driving towards it. They will hop over them like it never even existed, as if they just touched the speed bump at the right time. This sucks dick because it makes any throwable and projectile items completely worthless out of 50cc. If you fall below on the later laps, you just have to start praying for the roulette to give you mushrooms, because 9 times out of 10, they're just not gonna abide by the laws of racing. Thankfully, this is the only game to do this. Not even Mario Kart Super Circuit has this, and that bases a lot of elements from Super Mario Kart into that game. Basically, the CPUs suck, the AI programming is dumb, and I'm never going to try for anything higher than 50cc. I mean, I played through the entire 100cc Grand Prix 3 times on different recording occasions, so I know where I'm coming from on this. It's dumb, and I'm glad they don't do it like they used to, for the most part. Well, that's really it for the main stuff. If I have to mention anything else, it would be to do with the secret cheat code where you can make yourself small by pressing A and Y on the character select screen. And then play on 50cc if you want a challenge without dealing with the dumb bullshit. Or do it on 150cc, I'm not stopping you. Well, if there's anything else to cover, it would probably be the other modes. Time Trials is a basic time mode. Race by yourself on a map and try to beat your own time. It's as simple as said. If you have a buddy, you can try the modes given on the 2-player game, such as Mario Kart GP, where both of you can deal with the CPU's dumb bullshit. Match Race if you simply want to compete on a racetrack. I kinda like the bullet bills on this mode. They only serve for this one mode and zoom around the racetrack constantly. It serves as a good way to keep yourself on your toes just so you don't try and make a huge lead. Well, unless you're good at the game, which I'm not, at all. The final and most popular mode that essentially started the concept for this game is the Battle mode. In this mode, you take on each other in a 2-player last man standing battle in which both players are given 3 balloons and simply have to pop each other's balloons with items, and the one who loses all their balloons first loses. It's as simple as that, though for a part of the game that was intently looked upon, there isn't a lot going for it. The balloon battle is the only mode to play, and only a total of 4 tracks are available, all of which are squares with right-angled walls spread evenly on the track, barring Battle Course 1 with some sides having an extra road sticking out, and Battle Course 2 which contains random geometric walls. Oh, and also Battle Course 3 has those ice blocks just scattered all over and around the track. Why? I mean, I guess it fits well for being a simple competitive standoff mode, but there isn't much to them, honestly. Everything is resourced and taken directly from the main tracks besides the balloons and the ability to use Boo. Which is cool, but that's the only additional item. Like, you can't even use character-specific items or anything too, which I'd honestly think would make the mode way more fun to play. And the mode itself goes by way too slowly, even when trying, because most of the time you and your opponent are just going to be driving in circles for 7 minutes straight in this one-sided version of cat and mouse. I guess if I have one more thing to say about this mode is how Nintendo literally allows cheating. It states directly to always keep an eye on your opponent's screen as a valid strategic advantage to win, which is probably true given the fact that without so, you're probably going to be driving in circles for even longer. And you know what? Despite all this, despite all of the horrendous controls, despite all of the repetitiveness, despite all of the imbalances and issues, despite the poor quality in the single player mode, almost all of these points can be nullified by one simple saying: it was the first of its kind. And that is true. Despite me considering this to be, in my honest opinion, the worst of all the Mario Kart games, I still have to give it props for being the first of its kind. Because let's be real, it would not have been easily possible to make a perfect Mario Kart game at the time. This was probably the best they could have done with this being their first time, and I honestly say they did pretty well for their first time. Although there's obvious points and imbalances that could have been very easily tweaked, fixed, or removed entirely. Plus, it's not like my whole mentality on this game is negative. For one, I think the good challenging tracks that are actually challenging are fun in their own right. I obviously think the music is good. This goes for every Mario Kart game. The items didn't have much time to get mentioned because frankly, I don't have many points on them. You know, it featured items that established the series in the game itself. The cape feather is a cool item. I sure hope they bring that back. And I've said this before, but I think many of the character-specific items would have been cool if only they were usable, though. Missed potential, man. And finally, the coolest thing about this game is Donkey Kong Jr. Oh yeah. What a cool character. I mean, I didn't use him, but still, cool character. So, how do I feel about others wanting to try this game out? Would I say there is any reason to actually play through the game or consider it a worthy Mario Kart game? No. Just play Super Circuit, guys. It's right there.